Thank you everyone for coming, and thank you Lenny and David and Michael. It's nice to be here. I'm going to read the title poems of 3 of my books, and then I'm going to read just new work. Oh, I forgot my glasses. Where divinity begins. I think it begins in the darkness. We wait till we're rendered inoperable. There's a hedge, almost impossible to crawl through, a thicket of years, the same turf quicksanding beneath our clumsy feet. Only as a bumbling hero in an effete biblical tale does one draw the sword and bring down Jericho. Only on some driven and gifted God can we model ourselves, lift our evening goblets into the sundown's accomplishments, and drink in the myth of the happy ending. Failure translates to again. And how else does one become different than, more than before? What risk there is always there, dropping like fate. The lack of choice, a smoky lens, a choice through which we've recognized all along our enemy in the mirror, their voices, old roses pressed between the pages of our ears, a roar like the ocean. I say move through the depth of your overgrown country, like the God you'll never be, but some weak resemblance of. Though inside you ravens will howl, lacerating air with their serrated wings, who knows without gnashing of teeth where divinity begins? This is my little chapbook, and the poem is called Inside Light, which is the name of the book. Inside light. Within each cell there are little and littler parts, the way you imagine water droplets in meditation while breathing through your eyelids so as to harness the codes of light. Light grows inside cells, glows in the body through corpuscles in the blood. That's what life is. Luster, patina, scintilla, and shine. When the glowing stops, you're dead. But how to keep the circuit bright till then? This is the question you ask yourself before the foggy mirror where eyes perceive color and nerves send tracers infinitesimal times a second, prying open the spectrum inside your mind, projecting it onto the world. We all live inside light. The moon and stars are within us. That's consciousness, God's first idea. And his second? Eros, of course. Candlelight, fireworks, blown fuses, darkness in the back room where the rest of his tricky moves take place. And this is the title poem of Original Human. And it has a epigram actually from the idea of where Original Human came from. Human beings were ovoid-shaped doubles who became severed in two by Zeus as punishment when they revolted against the gods. So originally, we're the double-backed beast that Shakespeare talks about in Othello. Bring that into the modern era. We simply can't stand up, our faces two red berries glazed together, still damp after love. The way my right eye studies your left, lines at the temple grinning also. The way our noses rub like sniffing pups, and how my mouth keeps lolling open as if to inhale the whole room, blanket, pillows, sheets, your earlobe, tongue, world converted at noon, office to bedroom. And we are hungry well past lunch. Organic tendrils, persimmon, pomegranate, plum. I loved how you called what we did deep kissing, as if it qualified for the Olympics. I loved how we rocketed into one comfortable animal on the floor cushions, that close, like Plato's original human. Did we reach the soul we share? Did it murmur before it bellowed like a comet inside us? And how often will we bring our flock of appendages back? Like moths sucking up to summer doorways, lamplit in darkness, pull of moonshine on water, megalithic wand sparking the sea, hurling curves of that joint body, platonic pattern in motion, finding form like this, and finally unafraid to drown. My new manuscript, I just changed the title to The Lure, because it seemed to fit the whole idea of how we're tempted in reaching after things all the time, lured into some kind of fulfillment that never seems to totally manifest. Reaching for my prayer book. Beneath the feet of arithmetic lie the 9 integers upon which the body of all measurement stands, the all which is all, and I have waited a lifetime to meet it, that gentle containment, like the chalice of morning when the sun is just 10,000 centimeters behind the fog, that gravitational pull into balance. Now I'm waltzing from room to room, wearing the music of one seismic tone, reaching for my prayer book. Glory be to the numerals, holding chords of the firmament intact. Light spectrum drumming, the picture window beats time with the linen roses on our sofa. So I recline between Latin syllables, the sighs of Isaiah, between vowels of Psalms, while you boil water for coffee, the oven of loving set to some safe estimation of Fahrenheit. Feng Shui for lovers. Let the sun pour in from the east to drape your foyer. Face the Matisse nude opposite the bed and light the cherub sconces on either side. Align the vanilla nebulizer on the kitchen chopping block so it will waft into the bath. Place the candles on the stairway, and with each step your lover will move farther into fire. Play Edith Piaf on the iPod and leave the Pinot Noir at room temp. String the ceiling with glow-in-the-dark stars. Slide onto the settee, wing one leg up, flip an elbow out, and point to the bedroom with the stationary toe. Smoke the negligee over the bedpost. Drop Shakespeare sonnets on the nightstand. Leave the fallen rainbow across the marble tiles. Half mask the window shades so that the perfume of your lilac tree will mist the glass. The harmony of the next. This is sort of about like how to stop worrying. When concerned with the first factor, are you too blind to see the harmony of the next? Suppose the charge and damage occurred so prematurely you can't move over the rough knuckle of your habitual relapse. The way your teeth worry the skin and you're in the dark and out of Band-Aids and don't notice night turning to dawn on the flip side of the planet. That confusion, that morning drama, whose station you never switch. What if the first factor is only a figment, the phantom of threshold crossings, nano moments after your son rocks into the sea? Imagine the children in China smiling as light gluts the kitchen where mothers heat milk and school bells ring out over the nutmeg, over the violet villages under the mountains. And this is about death. Perish the thought. Perishing to the right of us, perishing to the left as we walk among the 6 billion. And there, for the grace of gods, we go. Our pets chomp the dust, our jazziest cars, our glamour girl actresses, all Hollywood studs. We've been hanged and beheaded, poisoned and stoned, disemboweled and tied to the stake, at the mercy of dictators, soldiers, spouses, and popes. The cemetery of perishables runs miles and miles, overseen by stone angels whose chipped fingers coil like snakes. The Sphinx even ages. Like Ozymandias, she passes slowly, watching the rest of us lepers from eon to eon rapidly rot. No one is not perishing. No republic, no empire, no island nation. Even Rome was shredded by Saxons and Goths. The pagan gods are breathless now, as mortal as rock stars. Only they're real stars, burnt out and ashen, thumbtacked onto the night. And some of you know I lived with my mother through 5 years of dementia and dying. She lived a long life, so I have a couple of poems about that. This one's called How to Face It. I empty my whisper into her ear each night with the 23rd Psalm, lower my voice into that cradle of death, pretend she remembers we traveled together years ago, though in truth she remembers nothing, not Israel, the moon-cratered landscape, the black caves and lavender limestone, nor carnage at Masada, the outline of Herod's troops like a sickle in the sand, not the treacherous Roman road under the hairpin turns of the tour bus, or how I put rocks in my pockets to take back to my Jewish friends. Here in the hospital bed, she's safe, she's home. At least the wallpaper here is a kind of green pasture. Here she floats above the still waters. But she can't roll over on her own, can't walk or eat or pee alone. She can't speak. Who could believe her eyes glazed in film since the stroke, that her brain flashes with recognition as I slip my fingers through her slim, boneless grip? I smile and squeeze, zoom in to tug at her smile, which happens. The sweet upturning vine of her mouth happens on its own. She knows it's bath and bedtime. She's alert, a reptilian bird, sculpted bones of her face under crepe-thin skin. I recall years of watching her dress, adding water droplets to a cake of mascara, then stroking in layers, then her lipstick brush lining and filling. I realize I love her most here at the end, as I love my own life for the first time, really, because she shows me how to trek the shadowed valley, how to live when you're almost dead. My mother had this Yadro figurine. It was we called her the Goose Girl, and she was sitting down, and she's about this big, and her foot broke off. And my mother was really obsessed with it. With dementia, you get obsessed in kind of anxiety states. This was a little earlier. And it's called the Goose Girl's Foot. There's also a reference in here to the Lacrima Mortis, which is the last tear in Italian. A lot of people, a good percentage of people, when they're at the moment of their death, one tear comes down their cheek. And I was fortunate to see that. The Goose Girl's Foot. The Goose Girl lay on the coffee table in Mother's living room for years. For years she watched the clear martinis drain. She wasn't sad to be broken. She didn't mind time. She didn't mind change. Just stared at the flower in her hand, its eternal blooming. And my mother adored her. Later, in dementia, Mother tried to glue the foot back on with cold cream. That was before she stopped talking. That was when she could still walk, when she surprised us daily, salad dressing poured into her wine glass. Soon enough, she'd live in a fog of a body almost brainless. To lose a foot, to lose a mind. What creatures are we that parts of us break off like a machine? At the end, she shut her eyes for a week, shut lips, refused to eat. In the last hours, her eyes flashed open, fixed on a point I couldn't contact, and a slight cry flew from her silence while the lacrima mortis swelled down her cheek. I could see what work it was for her to die at 95, even with hospice nearby and morphine under the tongue. For hours, her skin incrementally purpled, the way her brain blackened as the million thieves swept in. While my mother labored into death, I wrung her mottled hands, hoping each breath would be the last. Oh, my mother, my rock, so whole, so gorgeous, gone to a ghost before my eyes. Good neighbor John glued the Goose Girl's foot back on the week after my mother died. Where I had failed, my fingers stuck together. He focused deftly, made that foot fit. And an earlier mother poem, true story. It mentions the rosary. If some of you are Catholic, you know what that is, but it's a sequence of prayers that you say on beads in certain sets, and there are three mysteries it's broken into: the sorrowful mysteries, the joyful mysteries, and the glorious mysteries, which are basically, you're supposed to contemplate on the life of Christ and his mother. So this is called Rosary Time. Rosary time, my mother would holler, and we would dive into whatever activity we could find before heeding her call to sit by the fireplace at 8 o'clock each night, signing on to the sorrowful mysteries. Still in junior high, after our young father died, suspiciously died, December 63, 1 week before Christmas, 3 weeks after our handsome president's demise. I was not convinced 30 decades of hailing Mary could salvage my faith. More for my mother I prayed on my ruby red beads, toes tucked in fuzzy bear slippers. My older brother, a painful cynic, the younger, innocent as a squirrel, both obedient in deep winter. My sullen sister and I, shamed by the uncool, no one at school must know. Although I'd coax my current heartthrob in if he had the misfortune of stopping over, which he did almost every night. My holiday sweet, good Catholic or not, once slogged through rain and ice to see me. Drenched, he kicked off his soaked loafers between our joyful and glorious pleas. Dark fumes released and rose through our sacred circle. Mother scrunched her brow. My nostrils fluttered. The brothers almost erupted through stifled laughter. My sour sister's face turned green, while dear Brian, indifferent to feet which reeked, kept mumbling of power and glory. It's supposed to be kind of funny. And this is the title poem. The manuscript is called The Lure, and it's really about how we go looking for love outside ourselves. A sprinkle of gold on the threshold of the heart's doorway, down the long corridor of the soul's true interest. We mix it up with a partner's love. We mix it up because we're mixed up, but it is not. The lioness tastes the lure in her empty maw with goldness. She does not want to want, wants to conquer want, wants to make matter from abstraction and lap it up. She only knows hunger, waves slapping her tongue, as if gold could be spun into being by imagining taste. But the gold is part, maybe all, surely part of our hearts as well. Why we walk in and out of our longing for gold we've already got. It's the wrong definition of attraction, this lure to stalk. Let love. This has a little epigram with it too, by Miroslav Halub, who's a Hungarian poet. And he says, there is but one word, again. In rooms of perfumed tapers I've gluttoned on love, love inside up and downside out, and loved again, loved the unavailable, the ambivalent, have sworn no more, no more, no more, no more. and the dreamy riptide of desire with its rudimentary swells, its salve and ebb, its poxy crevices and desiccation, the bottomless water gazing, that grazing mounting the dunes, the cresting runoff of the heart, has racked this deciduous body so over and over, so loving now through outbacked arteries, just might be the light-emitting diode version of myself. Stabilized, Simonized, decelibatized by letting go. Let go, let love, without reciprocity, without skittish kisses or expensive mosts or certificates of fantastic suffering, without apotropaic ovations, those muttered stone-rubbing spells, that enchantment and collapse, mea culpa, mea ultima culpa, without withs and without withouts, and God help us, without pre's and posts, no syntaxable legalese, please, just the surge of cheekbone and chi, glitter skin, gypsy hips, glutes, and tongue, flex and ascension under sheeted fury. And whatever else, and why not? When nothing comes close, when we live to love to love. So wherefore, therefore, why ever not? And this is probably the most neurotic love poem I've ever written. It's called Resolutions. It's difficult to start at the end going backwards to change the middle where it all tangled up. When it can only untangle at one end like a mess of Christmas lights, one bad bulb and they're all out. Which is why you need to start with the end fuse, even if it's hot, since you're offering yourself as a lightning rod. And even thinking about the beginning becomes a burden you lift for a moment only to drop, like your stupid New Year's resolution to learn to play the harp. You sit in the middle of your room with the harp of resolution, picking your way through minor notes, and begin re-middling, by which time you already want to renege. You'd like to think you could carry something through from a new middle to a suitable end, a finale to make you proud, not only you but others, inspired not to muddle their own middles. So you stay with the effort, negotiate an end more appealing. But why then do you wish there'd never been a beginning at all? Tangle or no tangle, bad bulb, fiery wires, and need for resolutions aside, not to mention the New Year's kind, that fucking harp still in the middle of your living, the never-nevers, along with the X's you've scrawled all over the unwrapped boxes with a bright red crayon. And my last poem is called Karma, also a love poem of sorts. You were the smuggler of just let me get by. I was your fence in the outside world, the star that burnt out but left you a light to be smothered by quilts of denial. I was the one who disturbed your elusive double entendres with my untoward euphemisms and underlit puns. I was your galactic counterpart at the threshold where the doors swung open onto some place like Oz. I was the whisper that insisted we down that spiked drink, the ecstatic trip lost in a zip code beyond belief in the construct of time. I was the synapse bridging neurons of bold suggestions and untransmuted desires. I was that one. You were the earworm of, come here, go away, come here, go away. When I went undercover, while I went undercover, was the one whose snooping led to classified documents, the exposure of false flags, big lies consumed by crowds, shadows of cellular debris. I was the believer in spite of contrary evidence, the quiver to raise your genetic vibration, gateway to overage orgasm. I was the booty call you overlooked and looking back mistook for a dim alley when I actually led into Truth Town. You of the bad accent, you of the brutal biceps and occasional slur, you wind of resistance, the broken river's poison, You of the locked cellar, the barbed wire, you were the dumpster I dropped into, packaged wreckage I sought, damn spot I dared rub hard with Clorox and dollar store products. You, the Houdini escape artist whose costume malfunctioned. You were that slip into decadent underworlds I'd risen out of. You were that guy, nailed to exigencies of the past. I was la creme de la creme, coffee houses couldn't surpass, so rich and sweet no one could swallow. Together our souls were unbalanced masses on Zeus's scales, taxed by the rumors of colleagues, separated by highway truck stops and the side effects of prescription drugs. Despite these minor differences, I loved you then, I love you now. Thank you.